Good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for attending this first annual general meeting with Zoom. Now, many of you will probably remember fondly our other annual members meeting where we had 400 or 500 people in the room. And I'm very grateful that we have over 70 of our members attending this session today. Alors, bienvenue à tous. Merci de votre participation à notre première AGA virtuelle utilisant Zoom. This AGM will cover 2 years, 2019 and 2020, because last year, because of the pandemic, we did not have an annual members meeting. Alors, cette AGA va couvrir 2 ans. Il y a 10 membres du bureau des gouverneurs, incluant moi-même, qui participent à cette présentation ce matin. J'aimerais vous les présenter. I would like to present to you the directors that are attending this meeting this morning beside myself. Leslie Laurie, Dave Bennett, Harry Rootman, Chris Ford, Darlene Boileau, Alain Corriveau, Christine Deloge, Terry Singh, and Richard Wagner. Thank you to the directors that are attending and to all of you members attending. Let's have a moment of silence for our departed members. Prenons quelque temps, un peu de silence pour les membres qui nous ont quittés. Okay, let's resume. If you have questions, please type them in the Zoom chat box. We want to reserve the chat box for questions only. Veuillez saisir vos questions dans la case Zoom chat. Nous répondrons aux questions générales à la fin de la réunion. Durant la réunion, during the AGM, you will be asked to vote on 8 motions. When it's time to vote, just click yes or no when the question appears on the screen. Veuillez voter oui ou non en utilisant sondage sur votre écran. We will also answer questions related to motions before you vote. Nous répondrons aux questions relatives aux motions avant le vote. Meeting materials. Les documents, all of the meeting materials are on our website. And we'd like to sincerely thank Anna Bloveld, who takes the minutes at our AGMs, and Jennifer Pouliot, who produces the French versions. Merci à vous deux. Now, Chris Ford, our board secretary, will lead the vote on the first 2 motions: to approve the AGM agenda and to approve the minutes of the last meeting, which are in 2019. Les deux motions sont présentées par Chris Ford et appuyées par Harry Rootman. Chris, over to you.
Okay, merci beaucoup, Robert. Et bonjour à tout le monde. You see on the screen before you the agenda for today's meeting, which again is part of the meeting materials package. So on va discuter ou voter sur l'approbation de l'ordre du jour. Next slide. So here is motion number 1, motion numéro 1. Do you agree to approve the 2021 AGM agenda? Acceptez-vous d'approuver l'ordre du jour de l'AGA 2021? Vote yes or no. Polls will close in 10 seconds. Okay, we have 100% in favor, 72 votes. So motion number 1 is carried. Go to the next slide, please.
You need to get
Oh,
off
yes.
this one, Chris.
This one is to approve the 2019 AGM minutes, approbation du procès verbal de 2019. And we'll go to the vote. Okay, so motion number 2, motion numéro 2. Do you agree to approve the 2019 AGM minutes? Acceptez-vous d'approuver le procès verbal de la AGA de 2019? Vote yes or no, 10 seconds. All right, we have the results, 65 in favor, and it looks like 1 against. Therefore, this motion is carried. And thank you all. And I now return control of the meeting to our president, Robert.
Thank you very much, Chris. Let's deal with the president's report. The 2019 and 2020 President's Report was sent to you in hard copy with Sage Magazine, but you can also find them on our website. Je voudrais donner un grand merci au Conseil d'Ottawa, the Ottawa Board, à nos merveilleux volontaires et bénévoles, our wonderful volunteers, and our great office team of Linda Barber and Aaron Higgins. None of this would be possible without them. Let's go to the highlights. We collaborated with the Council on Aging and CARP on our 2019 election advocacy strategy. During this advocacy strategy, or the summer of 2019, we discussed senior issues at 5 meetings with MPs and 3 town halls attended by 30 local candidates and 400 participants. On a organisé 34 ateliers d'apprentissage sur la littératie financière et d'autres sujets auxquels ont participé 1740 membres et invités. La section d'Ottawa a gagné en 2019 67 nouveaux membres. La plus grosse croissance, la plus forte augmentation dans l'association. Ottawa branch gained 600 new net members in 2019-20, biggest branch increase in the association. Et nous avons reçu le prix d'excellence de l'Association nationale 2020. Next one, please. In 2020, of course, we had to face the pandemic and we adjusted our ambitious plans in light of the pandemic. We've closed the office. Nous avons fermé le bureau et sommes passés à l'activité sur Zoom. We collaborated with the City of Ottawa and the Council on Aging to offer 1,000 seniors a COVID-19 update over the internet. We expanded our programming to include healthy aging. En 2020, nous avons organisé 12 webinars pour un total de 843 personnes qui y ont participé. And since January 1, 2021, we organized 25 webinars for 1,928 participants. Next slide, please. We have 2 new members this count, which we are very proud of. One of them is with Ingenium membership, abonnement au musée. un rabais exclusif de 15% sur l'adhésion d'Ingénium, y compris les musées suivants: l'agriculture et l'alimentation, l'aviation et l'espace, la science et les technologies. We also added an AIM Fitness online group fitness training for sessions with an exclusive 33% discount on group memberships offering, including exercise and nutrition videos, live online motivation sessions, coaching and questions and answers, and exercises of the month, tips and advice. Check our website, NAFROttawa.com, for details. Looking ahead, we, of course, will build on our success in the various activities that we undertake. Branch community liaison, we will bring strong connections with seniors organizations. Défense des intérêts, advocacy, promotion de la réforme des soins de longue durée et des questions touchant les aînés par l'entremise de Zoom avec les députés. Il se peut qu'on ait une élection cet automne, ça semble se dessiner. Alors, nous allons collaborer avec d'autres organisations de personnes âgées et feront des représentations auprès des candidats. Membership service, we will develop new webinar topics, new ideas, and new discounts. A very important activity will be recruitment and retention, testing strategies to bring back lapsed members and exploring new ways to recruit. In policy and governance, we will ensure that we have the bylaws and authorities we need and reviewing our governance structure for effectiveness. But I'd like you to remind you about the next one. The biggest issue I've had is to have sufficient funding to meet your expectations. Only $9 from your annual fees. You pay over $50 and a little bit more if you're a couple. Well, only $9 of that amount goes to the branch, comes back to us. The other $40 over goes to national. Our treasurer, Ari Rutnam, will speak about our finances in the next slide. Ari, please. Harry?
Harry, you're on mute.
Yeah. Merci Robert. Good morning, everybody. Bonjour à vous tous. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will present shortly the financial statements. You can go over the complete audited bilingual financial statements for both 2019 and 2020 on our website. Our office has sent an email to all the AGM participants last week to give you the link to our website. You will receive another email after today's meeting with a website address again. Something important to note about these audited financial statements is that they contain confirmation from the auditor, Fouin Group, that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Ottawa branch as of December 31st, 2019 and 2020, and the results of its operations and cash flows for the years then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-profit organizations. Indeed, we are very pleased to announce that we have received clean audit reports for both 2019 and 2020. Also, I'd like to point out there were no internal control issues in the 2020 audit, no significant or unusual transactions, no disagreements with management, no major issues discussed that were not in the normal course of business, and no difficulties were encountered by the auditors in the course of their audit. Next slide, please. This slide shows the statement of revenue and expenses for 2020 as well as 2019. I am pleased to share with you that we stayed on budget for both years and we delivered on our commitments and still achieved a very healthy surplus. In 2020, we achieved a surplus of $21,780. In 2019, the surplus was $19,874. Those are the numbers right at the end of the income statement there, excess revenue. You can see that we maintain the same level of revenue, around $251,000 from annual membership fees. This happened because although we had a net loss of over 1,000 members during the pandemic, we gained 604 net new members in 2019, and there was a 2.2% fee increase in 2020. There is no fee increase in 2021. We work very hard, our office staff, Linda Barber and Erin Higgins, and the members of the board have worked very hard to increase their revenues through grants and sponsorships. In 2020, we received $27,400 for webinars, and in 2019, we received $41,657 for in-person events. This was a year before the pandemic. We achieved some savings during the pandemic, that's 2020, by canceling the 2020 AGM and switching to webinars over Zoom and closing the physical office. However, to deliver quality member services, our staffing remains our most significant expenditure. We needed help to switch to a virtual world, and that is why we spent more on wages and staffing services. We also started using a professional accountant to do our books in 2020. Next slide, please. This slide shows the reserves. And the slide shows effectively a very healthy state of the Ottawa branch reserves. You will recall that in 2019, we had asked the members to vote to establish two reserves. This is their value at the end of 2020. We have an HR liability fund for human resources, was established at $50,000 and remains at $50,000. The capital improvement fund was established at $30,000. And in 2019, we renovated our offices at a cost of $21,000. So we have a balance of around $9,000 left in the reserve. You will see that the amount of money we have in unrestricted net assets is growing because of the annual surpluses that we are able to achieve. At the end of 2018, we had $7,325 in unrestricted net assets, and now we've built it up to $41,886. So in total, the cash and equivalents at the end of 2020 came to a healthy $147,616. Our goal is to keep growing this amount until we have a year's worth of operating expenses in the bank as a recommended risk management best practice. So we want to build it up roughly up to $250,000. Now I will be asking for your help to vote on two motions to attest that our members have received the 2020 and 2019 audited financial statements. Could we have the poll on the screen, please? So the questions are, do you agree that the 2019 audited financial statements showing a surplus of $19,874 were presented to members. Êtes-vous d'accord pour dire que les états financiers vérifiés de 2019 montrant un surplus de $19 874 ont été présentés aux membres? You have 10 seconds? Oh, I see the vote is completed. Les votes ont été complétés. Nous avons un vote de 100%. Oui. Next slide, please. Okay. So for the 2020, could we have the poll for the 2020 on the screen, please? Do you agree that the 2020 audited financial statements showing a surplus of $21,780 were presented to members? Êtes-vous d'accord pour dire que les états financiers vérifiés de 2020 montrant un surplus de $21 780 ont été présentés aux membres? $10 secondes, 10 seconds. I see the votes are completed. Les votes ont été complétés.
They're just coming in now, Harry. They're just coming in now.
Okay.
They're still growing. There we go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. If you have any questions on the financial statements, please type them in the chat box and we will respond to them at the end of the meeting. Si vous avez des questions au sujet des états financiers, vous pouvez les insérer dans le chat box. Ensuite, on va essayer de répondre à vos questions à la fin de la réunion. Merci. Next slide, please. That's the budget for 2021 and 2022. So this slide is for information only to give you a sense of the budget that the Ottawa Board of Directors has approved for 2021 and the notional forecast that we have developed for 2022. So we always are planning ahead of the current year. It is important to note that we are forecasting a drop in revenues in both years. This is because of the loss of members we saw during the first year of the pandemic and the fact that we cannot go out and recruit new members in person the way we used to in the past. Also, you will see that we relied on funding applications and sponsorships in 2019, 2020, and 2021 to deliver on our ambitious plans to enhance the services that you receive. We cannot forecast if we will be able to obtain more outside funding in 2022. This is why our 2022 expenditure plans are lower also. As you heard from our president, Robert Giroux, earlier this morning, we hope to find a way to increase our branch's share of the association's total membership fees. We believe this is a route to establish a reliable, increased revenue stream for the branch, and this would enable us to deliver more value to our members, to you, our members. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Next slide, please. So in 2021, just to provide you a bit of context, in 2019, we had a question at our AGM about the need to put out an RFP, a request for proposals for a set of a firm of auditors. So we did invite 3 firms with experience in auditing nonprofit organizations to submit bids to provide audit services in 2021. Through a group which has provided audit services for the branch for many years, was also included in the list of firms invited to bid. The bids were evaluated based on qualifications of the firms, experience working in the nonprofit sector, as well as the price. And the bid evaluation committee recommends that Fouin Group provide audit services in 2021. So this is, I'm moving that we appoint Fouin Group as auditor for the branch, for the Ottawa branch for 2021. And this motion is seconded by Leslie Laurie. The vote is on the screen. Yes. Êtes-vous d'accord avec la nomination du groupe Fouin comme vérificateur en 2021? We have a 99% yes vote and a 1% no vote. Nous avons 99% votant oui et 1% votant non. La motion est approuvée. The motion is carried. Thank you. And now over to you, Robert. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Harry. Our new directors, we have 3 new directors this year. First of all, we thank our departing directors, Alain Corriveau, Elizabeth Renault, and Patricia Wash for their services. We did call for nominations in the spring 2021 SAGE. None were received. However, the board recruited 3 new excellent candidates. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Jean-Claude Bouchard a pris sa retraite de la fonction publique en tant que président de l'Agence canadienne d'évaluation environnementale. He served as Associate Deputy Ministers at Fisheries and Oceans and as Assistant Deputy Ministers at 3 departments. And he chaired the board of the CS Co-op, now Alterna branch, and of course the board of the Public Service Healthcare Plan, which is of course of very strong interest for all members of the association. Myriam Boudreau served as a senior executive at Fintrac, where she led legislative change. Elle a été cadre supérieur au Conseil du Trésor, où son portefeuille comprenait anciens combattants et patrimoine canadien. And she retired from the public service as executive director for human resource data in the office of the Chief Human Resources Officer, which is also part of the Treasury Board. Our third...
Robert, we just had a note. Could you speak up a little louder? Some people are having a little trouble.
Okay, I apologize.
Thank you.
Denis Lavoie. Let me see now. Denis Lavoie has over 40 years of experience in military operations, aerospace engineering, and program management. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. He trained and served all over Canada, participated in peace support in Ethiopia, Darfur, and served under NATO in Germany. Il est membre de plusieurs conseils d'administration depuis 1996, notamment pour les hôpitaux de Hull et de l'hôpital Montfort. Next slide, please. I also want you to thank with me the 5 returning directors: David Bennett, Leslie Laurie, Harry Rutnam, Terry Singh, myself, and those 5 were elected for a 2-year term, and the next 4 are elected for a 1-year term. Next slide, please. Darlene Boileau, Christine Deloge, Chris Ford, and Richard Wagner. So you have the full slate of directors, which are elected by acclamation. And I want to say a personal thanks to all directors for agreeing to serve on the board. It takes quite a bit of their time. They participate in committees and other activities, and I thank them very much. Next, Dave Bennett will help us to amend our bylaws. I just want to point out that there'll be the English text of the proposed amended bylaws, and there will also be a French text that you'll see on your screen. David?
Bonjour, Mr. President, and good morning to all. As the President has noted, we will be considering 3 amendments to the Ottawa branch bylaws today. The Branch Governance Committee developed the amendments which were approved by the Ottawa Board of Directors. 2 of the amendments provide flexibility during the pandemic and for any other crisis or occasions when it's not possible for us to meet in person. That's for members' meetings. The first is to permit electronic meetings of members, similar to what we're doing here today, again, to allow us to meet when we're not able to meet in person. These must be in the bylaws for us to be able to use that as a meeting method. Second, of course, is to permit directors to continue serving until replaced. And the reason for that is when you have a set term in the bylaws, the member's term or the director's term ends at the end of the actual term, whether or not there's anybody there to replace the director. So we will be looking at revising that. And the third amendment will relate to just correcting the current definition in the majority of votes in the bylaws, and that's to remove the formula 50% plus 1, because when you have an odd number, such as 51 as an example, then it doesn't work out. It means a majority plus 2. As an example, a half or 50% of 51, of course, is 26 and a half, which actually equates 27, I guess. So it's that would be, again, plus 2 when you sort of add the extra 1. And as Robert mentioned, the bylaw amendments are in both French and English on our website. Next slide, please. So the first resolution allowing electronic meetings of members is moved by myself and seconded by Terry Singh. Be it resolved to amend the branch bylaws approved October 25th, 2016 by inserting a new article, participation by electronic means at members' meetings, as follows. And you can read basically the text here, and then we'll also show it in English. Just leave that here for a second, and then we'll convert to I'll show you to the French version. The aspect with this, this is actually the wording is actually in accordance with, or actually from the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. And in accordance with the act, of course, not-for-profit, basically, unless it's in the bylaws, it cannot basically be held electronically. Therefore, this is why we have it. Can we show the electronic? The next slide, please. Are there any questions on this before we move? All right, seeing no questions, we'll call for the vote. So do you agree to amend branch bylaws outlined today to permit electronic members' meetings? Please vote. You'll have 10 seconds. And I vote, and this motion has passed. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. Again, this is to approve the resolution allowing directors to serve until replaced. As I mentioned earlier, once a term of director is completed, then that director no longer serves, even if there's nobody to replace the person. That's in accordance with common practices in parliamentary law. In order to basically ensure that we do have a replacement or director serves until we're able to find a replacement, then we're adding, as you see in highlight, we're adding the item or until their successors are elected. And this will allow a director basically to serve until, again, we have a replacement. When last year, when the members or when the director's terms finished in 2020, then those members actually expired and the board had to take steps to appoint them for 1 year or until the next AGM to allow us to ensure that we had members basically, or directors that are still serving on the board on your behalf. Next slide, please. And of course, the French version. Are there any questions on this amendment? That's a good question. What if a director does not agree to continue serving? Does this take this into consideration? If a director does not decide to continue serving, then the director's term is finished and there is a vacancy created on the board. If at that time we don't have a replacement, the board does have the ability, in accordance with bylaws, in accordance with the act, to appoint a member to serve on the board for the remaining of that director's term. Does that answer your question, hopefully? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Thank you, Bernie. We'll call for the vote. Do you agree to amend branch bylaws to permit directors to serve until successors are elected? And we'll just wait for a second, for a few minutes, for a few seconds. Okay. 72 people voted, 89% voted yes, and 11% voted no. So the amendment passes, is adopted. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, the next one is to approve the resolution to accurately define majority. And as I mentioned earlier, when you have an odd number, 50% plus 1 actually equals the majority plus 2. When there's an odd number. And in this case, we're trying to remove the formula to ensure that in accordance with both the Act and in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, which is our parliamentary authority, that a majority actually means just more than one voted yes, more than one voted no, as an example. So, and so be it resolved to amend the branch bylaws approved October 25th, 2016, by revising Article 10.1 by striking 50% plus 1. Next slide, please. So are there any questions on this amendment? A question? I'm gonna hear it. There was a question on if a vote is tied, it does not pass. That is correct. We'll call for the vote, please. Yeah. So the results are 97% voted in favor. Therefore, this amendment is adopted. Now, before I turn over the meeting back to the president, I would like to say a few words. Throughout the meeting, we have heard our president, Robert Giroux, thank many members, including volunteers and the board. Again, he will probably want to thank everyone again before we adjourn. However, before passing the meeting back to the president, I want to express, on behalf of the board of directors, our many volunteers, and you, our members, a sincere thank you to Robert for his many years of leadership and commitment in leading the branch over these many years. With the issues we have faced, especially during the pandemic, it was not an easy task. So Robert, thank you very much. And I'll pass the meeting over to Robert, the president.
Thank you very much, David. I really appreciate it. Now I have a very pleasant task to perform. It's the Stephen Troy Volunteer of the Year Award. David Gass is our award recipient. David is a retired professional from Nortel who is married to Guylaine Dupère, a member who has generously volunteers with us. Dave says he is a full-time golfer now, but he devotes countless hours of his free time to helping Ottawa branch with its technology requirements. He is our volunteer webmaster and our IT advisor on this year's project to overhaul our website and make it more interactive and easy to use. Dave has saved the branch thousands of dollars every year. But as you know, and that was pointed out to you by our treasurer, our branch is on a tight budget. So all we could provide David was peanuts. As you can see here in this photo, we invented a Silver Peanut Award to thank Dave early on for his service. However, this year, we are proud and happy to award him our Stephen Troy Volunteer of the Year Award for his exceptional contribution to the branch. J'aimerais féliciter Dave, qui vient de gagner le Stephen Troy bénévole, la récompense de bénévole de l'année. Stephen Troy, thank you very much, David. You see now. But now questions. First of all, we thank you for your patience and cooperation as we experiment with Zoom. Merci de votre patience. Nous prendrons le temps maintenant de répondre à vos questions si vous en avez. This format does not make it easy to ask questions. So we will take now time to answer the questions, any general questions you might have. Please type them in the Zoom chat box, and Linda Barber, our branch manager, will read the question out loud. Alors, tapez vos questions dans la zone Zoom chat. Also of importance, we will send you an evaluation form by email, and you can include a question when you reply. Vous pouvez nous envoyer une question aussi lorsque vous avez terminé. I saw some questions appear at the bottom. Linda, do you want to read them? And we'll see who's the best person to answer them.
So Robert, this is Erin Higgins here. Linda has been experiencing some technical difficulties, so I will be speaking on her behalf. So I'd like to start with the first question, which is, did the board take into account the need for diversity in making the nominations?
Yes, I think we did. Our objective is to appoint a large number of women on our board. And as you saw from the appointments and the composition of the board, we certainly did take that into account. Obviously, we could be more diverse. We're not really saying that we're perfect on that count, but it's something that we're always seeking.
Thank you, Robert. Next question. Are we planning to have an RFP for an auditor every year? Usually,
best practices, and Harry can help me on this, is you go with an auditor for about 5 years. After 5 years, it's good management, good governance practices to seek whether there's not other auditors there in the marketplace which could do a better job and probably at similar or less cost. So you do it almost every 5 years.
Thank you, Robert. How many members has the section lost, and does the section have specific plan measures to increase its membership?
Unfortunately, since the debut of the pandemic, we've lost over 2,000 members. A loss that is mirrored at national, and they've lost about 15,000 members. And yes, we're working very closely with the National Association to try to find ways of keeping that loss at a minimum. There are 2 ways of doing that. One of them is, of course, to do a lot of recruitment as much as possible. But this is very difficult in these times because we cannot be at actual places or have actual meetings where people can meet our members. The other one, of course, is to deal with retention. And we're losing a lot of members who pay by credit card. So we have plans in place, both at national and at the Ottawa branch, to start contacting, and we will do this after sometime after this annual members meeting, to start contacting members which have left stuff in 2019 and 2020 to be able to recapture them. We made such an attempt over a year ago, which was called the Win Back Project. And we were able to win back a large proportion of the members which are not renewed.
Thank you, Robert. Next question. Do directors serve on a volunteer basis or are they compensated?
Their compensation is a regular thank you on my part. They serve on a volunteer basis, and nobody's getting rich by serving on our board.
In regards to the financial statement, who receives the salaries and the benefits?
Could you repeat that again, Erin?
Yes. In regards to the financial statements, who receives the salaries and the benefits?
Well, we have two full-time persons on our staff, Linda Barber and Erin, who's reading these minutes. But also during the course of the year, we had additional staff where, for example, we got authority to appoint a summer student, and we did get from the Canadian government. We have authority. We have had authority last year to appoint a student, a summer student, and we're looking to have a summer student again for this year. We also do get grants from national to do some special exercise, and we will hire people on a term basis or on a contract basis. But we have two full-time employees, and they receive the salaries and benefits that is in our budget.
Thank you. Next question. Why are we losing members to retention? It cannot just be because of payment method. Have you diagnosed the symptoms for non-renewal?
Yes, they do get notice from national for non-renewal. They're mostly people that don't pay through direct deposits. They pay through credit cards, and we have a lot of members that pay through credit cards. And of course, the credit card is for 1 year. So when that year terminates, many members sometimes forget to renew, not because they don't want to renew, they just forget. And so we've lost a lot of members through that. And that's why we're taking special measures to try to regain their membership through, and we will do this through phone calls, direct phone calls to them.
Robert, this is Chris. Can I add a point to that?
Sure, please.
Yes, one of the attractive features of membership in this association is access to preferential rates for travel insurance with our partner Medoc. And that is something that really attracts people to become members in our organization. But as we all know, travel for the last year has been extremely limited and certainly ill-advised. And so that feature that we used to be able to attract members with is not very effective right now. And in our opinion, when travel restrictions are lifted and people can get back to traveling all over the world, I think we're going to see an uptick in member retention and recruitment.
Thank you, Chris. Our next question is, have you tried expanding into social media and re-expressing the advantages to being a member?
I don't know if Linda can answer because I think that she's got some plans in place to do this. I think we do.
Yes.
We will be expanding. Erin, you may be able to.
Yes, I can touch on this point,
Yeah,
Robert.
please do.
So we do have a plan for the summer to begin revamping our social media sites, specifically Facebook and our website. So we'll be introducing more information on these two platforms. Okay, next question. Harry, this might be specifically more for you. Regarding the financial statements, telecommunications, what does this involve? And I believe you're on mute, Harry. You're still on mute, Harry.
Okay. That's a cost of our telephone. We've also got web services, which goes in there, and the cost of all the Zoom meetings that we have every month. Sometimes, well, very often we have 2 meetings a month. So this is what goes into our telecommunication services. So Zoom meetings, telephone, well, we don't use fax too much now, and web services for hosting the websites that we have.
Thank you, Harry. Next question. Were the improvements to the office in 2019 lost with closing of the office in 2020?
Excuse me, would you repeat that, Aaron?
Yes. Were the improvements to the office in 2019 lost with the closing of the office in 2020?
Well, the improvement that we made to the office were principally in our boardroom to make it much more attractive, to enable us to have more people into it, because we did do a lot of seminars and in our boardroom downstairs. We also made improvements to our offices upstairs. Yeah, these improvements were not used, of course, in 2020 since we closed the office, but we're open. We're looking forward to using them once we open the office.
Thank you, Robert. Next question. Audit fees are way up in 1 year, $900+ due to the change. Is this due to the change in the auditor firm?
I think Harry should handle that. Harry?
You're on mute, Harry.
Okay. The audit fees from 2019 to 2020, I'm just looking at the financial statement. No, they are just due to the regular work, price increases, and as you know, in 2020, the auditors have worked mainly off-site, so this has probably increased their costs. So we've looked at some other organizations, and when we did the bids for the RFP for the auditors for 2021, we did compare the costs, and the costs that you see there are quite reasonable. They are reasonable costs, mind you, from 4,000 to 5,000. That includes the HST that we pay 13%, but they are quite reasonable in the context of non-profit organizations and the work that the auditors have to do to prepare our financial statements for the year.
Thank you, Harry. Another financial statement question. Professional services, what do they include?
Okay. In 2019, we only had $6,000. In 2020, as I mentioned before, we engaged an accountant, a CPA, to prepare to do basically the data entry and prepare our monthly financial statements for the board, for the executive committee and the board. And this is a cost of the professional services. So this is why you have a significant increase from $6,500 to roughly $15,730 in 2020.
Thank you, Harry. Next question. Even when we return to face-to-face meetings, will consideration be given to continuing in the Zoom format? A lot of our members might prefer staying at home for these events.
This is a very important question. And of course, your reaction to this meeting is going to be very significant. As I said, we will send you an evaluation form, and this is one of the things that you might want to give us comments on. Who knows, we may wish to continue doing this particular annual members meeting by Zoom. We may wish to continue doing virtual meetings by Zoom. If we can get back to a regular basis, heaven knows when we will be able to do that. The board of directors may want to meet in person. I think that that's important. And we may want to have some special meetings in person, some special issues that we wish to discuss. But yes, it's going to be very much under consideration. And in fact, one of the things we want to do as a board of directors after this meeting, sometime during the summer, is to have a retreat of all of us and look at these questions particularly, because they do affect our governance.
Thank you. Next question. Does having a 1-year operating reserve conflict with our nonprofit status?
Harry, do you wish to take that?
And you're on mute, Harry. Perfect.
Okay. No, if our reserves that if you look at the balance sheet on slide 14, the reserves right now we have total reserves of $41,886, roughly $41,900. Unless we exceed our roughly $250,000, our nonprofit status will not be jeopardized. But this is not on a branch-to-branch basis. The nonprofit status is looked at from a global perspective, i.e. the total reserves at the level of the national branch. At the national level. So in our branch, we manage our reserves very well, and we've done that over the course of the past 3 years quite well. And I don't believe that given our level of expenses and the revenues that we are expecting and that we are forecasting for 2021 and 2022, that we are likely to exceed $250,000 in our reserves. So a nonprofit status will not be jeopardized. I can guarantee you that.
Thank you, Harry. I have 2 questions regarding the CPA. Paying a CPA to do data entry seems like an overkill. Why not engage a part-time trained bookkeeper? And the follow-up was, will CPA be hired every year?
We did that in 2020 when one of our staff members left, and she was doing our books basically and preparing the financial statements for the board and the executive committee. We tried it last year because we needed somebody to enter all the numbers in our Sage 50. So we need somebody who is very knowledgeable in Sage 50 and is able to generate the financial statements very quickly, efficiently, and effectively for the board and the executive committee. So we will reevaluate it this year, and we may or may not engage the same person. He's had the experience of 1 year, so we are expecting that the fees for this year, if we do engage him again, will be much less than what we paid last year. because he's gone up the learning curve and he's very well familiar with what has to be done for the branch. So we will let you know, and of course, as all our members know, we are trying to conserve our funds for member services to deliver programs. So that's a reason we watch this expense very carefully.
And Harry, it's Linda, if I may. Sorry, I was disconnected a couple of times there. We're also, Aaron and I are going to look into learning more about the system, the Sage 50 system, and being able to take some of that workload on ourselves. So that is the plan for this year.
And that seems to be all of the questions we have in the chat. If there are any further questions, please enter them now.
Thank you. Closing remarks. Again, we send huge thanks to our volunteers and staff, but I would like particularly to mention Frank Schilder, who has been our Zoom master for today. Un gros merci à nos bénévoles et nos employés, en particulier Frank Schilder. I'd like to thank Hélène Nadeau and Danielle Brunet, who are our two district directors for Ottawa and Nunavut on the board of the National Association, and Jean-Guy Soulière, National Association President, and all the staff at the National Office for their assistance and support. Nous apprécions le soutien de nos directeurs de district et de l'Association nationale. Now, we encourage everyone, if you haven't done it, get your COVID vaccinations. Allez vous faire vacciner. Next, please watch our upcoming webinar that will be publicized in our electronic newsletter and on our website. Veuillez consulter nos bulletins, notre site web. Veuillez inviter aussi les non-membres à essayer nos webinars. Please invite our non-members. It's a good way of doing more recruitment and dealing with our loss of members. We hope you have a safe, healthy, happy summer ahead. Restez en sécurité et en bonne santé. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. En l'absence d'autres affaires, cette séance est levée. Goodbye, everyone.